Am I wrong for refusing to pay for a family member's life-saving surgery? Story context. My sister, female 27, and I, 18 female, lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in my or my sister's life. Dad left money, inheritance, for me and my sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now because my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be a doctor, but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about Dad and mock his illness, and made a scene at his funeral, only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and in need of surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I ended up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery, and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy because if I give her money for my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority, and that I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health wasn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family, telling me this is what I was saying no to: a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish and not a good aunt and sister. I asked my friend, and he said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give them money, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. Am I really the bad person here? Response 1. Your friend said, let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warn me if I give them money, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. He's right, correct. You'll never get the money back because Sis isn't willing to give up her luxurious lifestyle. She chose how to spend her inheritance, didn't save for a rainy day, and isn't entitled to yours because of her poor financial planning. Not the a-hole. Reply 1, OP. I'm not sure whether they still have anything of value because I remember my aunt talking about my sis selling her car in May. Reply 2. Cars depreciate in value quickly. It still isn't your problem that she decided to spend all of her inheritance unwisely. They're trying to live outside of their means as a family, which means if you give any money, be prepared to not get it back. Don't be surprised if you keep getting asked for more until you're left with nothing. You can have this relationship with your sister or you can pay for medical school. You can't have both. But your sister and her husband seem toxic, so distancing from them should be your first step. Reply 3. Absolutely. She knew her husband was in poor health. The wise thing to have done was put money aside instead of buying luxuries that depreciate. She can't know how much you have, right? If you feel like donating a small sum you can manage to lose, and tell her that you lost a lot of it in bad investments to get her off your back and keep the relationship with her. But honestly, she's not entitled to anything you have. The manipulation is awful, and you deserve to have your dreams. Do you really need them in your life, OP? Reply 4. This. He didn't just wake up ill, he's been ill for a long period of time, and as such, they needed to plan for this. They are adults, and it is their responsibility to figure it out. It is not yours, period. You didn't marry the guy. Wild that your sister actually believes the crap she's spouting. Sorry, honey, you repeated the vows and said I do, no one else. I know how crappy it feels to say no. I'm a people pleaser, and I always want to help. but do not let go of your own future. You will resent them and yourself in 5-10 years when you weren't able to do the things you wanted to. And your relationship with her being damaged, it already is, and it will be even more so when she doesn't pay you back. You know in your heart from what you've written that if you give the money, that's it. Your father would not have wanted you to sacrifice your dreams and future to fix this. I truly don't believe that. He left you both equal shares of money to make sure you both were able to get ahead. Her needs now don't cancel out yours. Tell her you love her, you are there to support her as her sister, but that you hope one day she will understand why you're saying no. They'll figure it out. Not the a-hole, dear. I wish you the best. Response 2. Not the a-hole. Your sister chose to spend money she got less than a year ago on expensive things instead of planning for the future as you did. Easy come, easy go, as they say. Do not give them a penny of your money. They have options they don't want to take, and that's not on you. You're not getting that money back if you lend it. You'll become a fine doctor someday. I'm rooting for you. Reply 1. That was my thought too. Like, if they made improvements to a house, they most likely own that house. They could take out a loan using the equity they have in the home as collateral, so they aren't paying a ridiculous interest rate. If the sister is so confident she can pay back in a year, a 5-year loan with a lower interest rate shouldn't be much of a problem. Reply 2. And it's crazy how people are like that. I had a roommate in college that refused to get a job. Always said he would look and apply, but never got one. Got to the point where he was asking if I could cover his rent because of the tight spot but I knew he was just hanging out at the house, smoking and playing shell. The breaking point was trying to get him to apply for a fast food job, and his response was, "Those jobs are beneath," which is really rich coming from someone without a job. I said I could either drive him to the fast food place to apply, or I could drive him to the pawn shop to pawn his guitar, a Seagull Acoustic Electric, but that I wouldn't pay his share of the rent. He chose the guitar and ended up moving out the next month, when he again could not afford rent. Reply 3. And she did all that knowing her husband was chronically ill and would inevitably need medical care of some kind, which gets expensive quickly. It should have been a no-brainer for the sister to stash her inheritance aside in anticipation for medical bills. Instead, she spent it selfishly, likely assuming she could bully OP to coughing up her share when sis finally needed it. Response 3. Not the a-hole. Your sister is manipulating you. She received the same money you did. If her husband is chronically ill, then they should have saved that money for his care instead of spending it on luxury items. She probably always planned to spend her money and yours. Will refusing to give her the money damage your relationship with her? Probably. But do you really want to give up your future to preserve the relationship you have with her now? Because it sounds terrible. And don't think that giving her this money will improve the relationship at all. Reply 1. I think education compared to someone's life isn't as important as a general, and it's not a good idea to look at it as return on investment. But in this case, the sister-in-law wants to have her cake and it too. She wants all the luxury and a healthy husband and doesn't care what happens to her sister. She could sell all her things and have a healthy husband, and OP gets to pay for school, but she'd rather someone else sacrifice their financial instead. Not to mention, OP's husband is a dick, and not only craps on the person that died to give this money to the family, but wouldn't let OP live with them. So OP is family when it's needed and not otherwise. Reply 2. Also the part where OP mentions, my aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. You know that thing people say about people who claim, oh, all my exes were crazy? That they are probably the crazy ones. Yeah, I got a hunch that sister and her husband might just be a common denominator of crappiness. Not the a-hole. Save your money and your energy for relationships that give you as much of them. Reply 3. The relationship will be broken either way. It will break if OP doesn't lend her the money, but it will also break if she does because the sister will not pay her back, which will permanently damage OP's future. Your relationship with your sister had already reached the point of no return, OP. It must be very hard for you after losing your father. I'm sorry you're having to go through this. Not the a-hole. Reply 4. The manipulation aspect is on point. Yes, not giving her money will likely damage your relationship, but so will giving her the money if you value your own feelings at least as much as hers. If you give her the money expecting her to pay it back and she doesn't, then your own resentment of her will poison the relationship. She may very well be aware of this and is okay with it, knowing that you'll probably just roll over and swallow that resentment down the road, prioritizing her feelings over your own yet again. If you do give her the money, money, you can't do so with the idea that you'll be getting it back. Make peace with that beforehand and acknowledge that you're doing this immensely generous thing that will help your family because you want to. Just don't consider it as a loan if you do. Response 4. Not the a-hole, not in the slightest. Make backhanded comments about Dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral. He had no respect for your father. Making scenes is not something that you do even at your enemy's funeral. She used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. She had her money. She blew it. Education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. It's your education, not hers. Your brother-in-law is a complete stranger to you. You have no blood relation, I assume, and therefore no obligation. She's being selfish and entitled. If she had done none of the above and you refused, then you'd be TA. But after all this, she absolutely does not deserve a cent. Please don't sacrifice your education. She'd pay it back in less than a year. If this is true, she should have no problem getting a loan from a bank. After all this, if you do end up giving her money, make her sell all her cars and collect collateral if possible. Reply 1. This is it for me. And her sister only started being more friendly towards OP because she wanted to ask OP for money. Sister and brother-in-law didn't care about OP before that. I also don't like how brother-in-law thinks he can act like an A is ill. Being ill does not give you a pass to act however you want and disrespect others. OP should not sacrifice her future for anyone because relationships can always fall apart, but an education can help her to achieve her goals. Not the a-hole, OP. Do not give them a penny. Your sister is trying to make you feel bad, to manipulate you to doing what she wants, but this is not your problem, and you do not owe these people your time or money. Next time she makes you try to feel guilty, ask her why she didn't save her ask her why she didn't save her money when she knew her husband was chronically ill. Reply 2. Even if they have a good relationship, the choice is still OP on whether to give money away. Saying no to a request for donations doesn't make anyone an a-hole. OP isn't responsible for her brother-in-law's health in any situation. Reply 3. OP will not get the money back. What's worse is that the sister will likely come to her again in a year because her husband needs some other thing. She'll promise that this will absolutely be the last time, and she'll never ask for another thing until the next time she asks for another thing. OP doesn't need these in her life. She stated that she doesn't have a great relationship with the sister, nor does anyone from the sound of it, so there isn't much to damage. OP should stand her ground, not the a-hole. Response 5. No one has mentioned that your brother-in-law would not let you stay with them when your dad died, but he's perfectly happy letting you take care of his family while you stay at the aunt's house. Please don't give these people any money. The man has been sick for some time. They should not have wasted the money your dad gifted them despite their brother-in-law being trash to Dad. Just because they're family does not mean you have to have a relationship with your sister. Go be a doctor. Save many more lives than you've got this. Good luck. Reply 1. I thought that too. If OP's dad died a year ago, she would have been 17. Given the age gap, sister and brother-in-law should have their stuff together, and it sounds like they do to some extent given that they have a luxurious home and car and a child. Even if they are living outside they should have stepped up because that's what family, but they didn't. Maybe there really is a good one, I don't know, but OP was 17, not 5, and it sounds like OP is quite mature. They pretty much just would have had to house OP. In other words, it wouldn't be a big deal. They aren't piss poor. They could have afforded it or charged OP rent, but I wouldn't have and think it would be a dick move. Not the a-hole. They didn't step up, and they certainly shouldn't expect you to potentially sacrifice her now. Reply 2. I wonder if they actually need the money for surgery, to be honest. Sounds to me like they could just be wanting money after having blown through all theirs. Or maybe he does need surgery, but it's not nearly as expensive as they are claiming. This guy is chronically ill and they don't have insurance? My mom just had surgery for cancer, and most insurance companies have a maximum amount you need to pay out of pocket. They tried to scam my mom into paying more out of pocket, but she was like, no, I already hit my, and she hasn't had to pay a dime out of pocket since. Reply 3. And I'm assuming that sister was under 18 at the point she got denied living with them. While this might not make much of a difference, I would find it hard to deny my sibling a place to stay, no matter their age. I'm wondering if this wasn't done on purpose, so they didn't have to take up guardianship for OP. Then again, I might just be biased against OP's BIL. Response 6. Not the a-hole. Education is nothing compared to someone's health. She just admitted that she has no intention to pay you back. Reply 1. Something that is helpful that people should come to understand understand is that just because you are related to a person doesn't make them family. Family is a term for someone who you can trust, and when they need help, you will go to great lengths for them because you know without a doubt they will do the same for you. If this move damages your relationship with your sister, that is a good thing. You are building boundaries, and healthy boundaries mean keeping toxic people out. Reply 2. Also, if OP is planning to go to med school, will that not lead to being directly responsible for someone's health? She'd help so many more people than just one. OP just needs to sadly realize that her sister is trying to take advantage of her, and sadly will need to cut them out of her life, for now, or at least reduce contact to the bare minimum. Reply 3. OP should tell her sister that house renovations and new cars are nothing compared to someone's health. It doesn't sound like they did renos so he could move around easier or buy a handicapped accessible vehicle. They wanted new stuff, and now they want everyone else to fund them. Response 7. Not the a-hole. Your sister's husband had poor health before you and your sister received your inheritances. Knowing this, they have made poor choices, everything from being generally unlikable and rude to your father during his life, to not supporting you by letting you live with them after your father passed away, to spending their inheritance money on renos and cars, with the reasonable expectation that they would eventually experience a health crisis. I would also point out that they have conveyed that they will not be there for you in your time of need, living situation. All this to say that you need to look after yourself first, guilt-free. Your aunt is right. This will permanently damage your relationship with your sister. My suspicion, though, is that your sister will always be reaching out to you for money, even more once you become a doctor. So establishing boundaries now will serve you well. It is really crappy of your sister to put this big, huge burden on your shoulder. You are only 18 years old and have recently lost your father, and now need to make important decisions about your own future. This makes me more angry the more I think about it. How dare she put you in this position? Reply 1. Came to say this. If OP's sister and brother-in-law knew he had health issues when they received the money, it's on them. It's their own fault they didn't prepare for a rainy day situation. Do with your money what you want to, not what other people want you to do with 100%, not the a-hole. Reply 2. It actually sounds like cutting this person out of your life sooner rather than later is a win. Several years ago, my wife's brother and sister-in-law decided to cut us out of their lives for some imagined grievance. I don't know if they were hoping that we would feel bad about it and would beg them to have us back, but quite frankly, having their toxic presence gone from my life has been a relief. Response 8. Not the a-hole. You can't be held responsible for everything around you because you have money. This is what health insurance is for. Your sister could have saved some of her inheritance, and this would have been less of a problem. Reply 1. I'm a retired nurse with many health problems. If OP in the U.S. and has health insurance, the insurance will pay almost all the hospitalization costs, and most other costs as well. Hospitals also have payment plans and will work with families on this. Back before I had Medicare, I had major surgery with insurance through my husband's employer. I had only a couple of thousand out of pocket that I had to pay. If OP wants to help, she should require that she see the bills and the insurance coverage statements before she gives anything. While I empathize with the brother-in-law's condition, the couple gives off the vibe of being selfish manipulators. I can almost guarantee that OP would never get her money back. Not the a-hole. Reply 2. Exactly. Good health insurance, barring that. Bad health insurance, barring that. Medicaid, barring that. Medical assistance, barring that. Debt plus payment plan. Every hospital does this huge range of scales. And worst case, debt and bankruptcy. I am one of the first to complain about healthcare in the U.S. I'm an RN, but there is usually a way to get through it, most of which does not include hitting a family member up for their share of an inheritance. It is super suspicious there aren't more details about this surgery. There are very few life-saving surgeries that can be put off, i.e. elective surgery, until you get more money. I'd be highly suspicious the money went up some noses. Response 9. Not the a-hole. 1. Your brother-in-law was ill when your sister had her share of the inheritance. She chose not to eat for medical bills then, or save it. Buying cars and home renovations could have waited. 2. Your brother-in-law treated your dad poorly. Honestly, that alone would have made me have no contact with him and your sister. 3. You won't ever see that money again, and you'll lose your chance to go to college and be debt-free. 4. It's your money, and your sister isn't entitled to it anyway. If this was someone you were really close with who had no other options, that would be a little different. for it, but you aren't close with her, and she had the money a year ago and chose not to put it towards her husband's health. If it's not important to her, why should it be important to you? Don't feel bad. The rest of your family has cut her off for a reason, and damaging this relationship doesn't seem like a major loss, completely honest. Response 10, not the a-hole. Your friend is right. She can sell those cars or her house to get the money. She's wrong to try and guilt trip you to paying for her husband's surgery. She knew her husband was in ill health and still decided to spend her inheritance on house renovations and junk. And you're supposed to throw away your future for a guy who won't even let you stay at their house? Don't do it. But your aunt is right. This is going to ruin whatever existing relationship you have with your sister. But I wouldn't want a relationship with someone who's so manipulative. Reply 1. Yeah, if my husband was in desperate need of surgery and we owned a house, despite how important home ownership is to me, I would sell that house in a heartbeat and downsize or find a rental until we can recover a down payment to buy again. Heck, I'd even move in with relatives or couch homeless for a while if I had to. Or a home equity line of credit could be an option if they're just looking for a loan like they asked for from OP. Reply 2. Yes, it sounds like getting the money from her sister is the easiest way to get the money without having to make personal sacrifices. Shame on her. Response 11. Not the a-hole. Never lend money, especially large sums, to friends or family. You'll likely never get it back. It's not worth the headache. If someone needs money and you're okay, just give it. Reply 1. This is most important. Whenever family or friends ask for money, I will give an amount up to the point I'm willing to not see that money back. If it comes back, I am appreciative and will lend to that person again. If it doesn't come back, then I let it go, but will not lend money again. And that max is what I can get rid of without messing with my finances, or that would have to give to a charity anyway, but also only to people I like, who respect me at a decent level. OP, I'd lend money to the friend who gave you this advice, but I'd never lend it to my sister or brother-in-law. It's clear they don't respect you, and they are not living within their means. Either you cut them off now, or you cut them off when she doesn't pay you back. I'd suggest cutting them off now, so that you can start your adult life without the added stress of finances. Reply 2. This. I've also let good friends pawn stuff, basically collateral that I'd sell back. Most people understand how much money lending can mess up relationships, even when you start on good terms. When you legitimately care about someone, it's a complication you'd both want to avoid. Response 12. Not the a-hole. You would never get that money back. She doesn't care about you or your future, only your inheritance, just because you didn't blow it all like she did. Failure to plan on their part does not make an emergency on your part. And using your nephew to try to guilt you into giving her money is manipulative AF. You might be better off not having her in your life anyway. TBH. Response 13. Not the a-hole. If your sister would be able to pay you back within a year, then surely she'd be able to pay off the medical bills in a year the same way. Usually there's the option of a payment plan to pay off large bills in increments. I used a payment plan to pay off an ER bill from last year. Your dad left you and your sister inheritances. I'm assuming you both got the same amount. I can understand you're upset and wanting her husband be healthy, but that's not a burden you put on your little sister. Also, if her husband hadn't been so rude to you in the past, I imagine you might be more inclined to help, at least a little bit. Response 14. Holy moly, not the a-hole. If it means that much to them, why not spend their inheritance money on that instead of cars? It sucks that you guys don't have universal health care. I assume the US, but that's not your fault. She shouldn't expect you to sacrifice your own future. The real AH here is the US healthcare system. Reply 1. I mean, yeah, but also the sister did have money, and she spent it all on luxury cars. I'm behind her renovating our home, though. That sounds nice. The system is obviously terrible, but the sister is just as selfish, telling OP that her school doesn't matter. She can sell her cars. She can take out a loan since she can apparently pay the entire sum of the money back within a year. Plus, she seems to be a generally nasty person. If everyone has cut her off, plus, why would OP want to help this man? Made fun of her dying dad. Screw him, honestly. I say not the a-hole. And though the US healthcare system sucks and is very unfair, in this case, the real a-hole is the sister. Response 15. Not the a-hole. Life is a series of choices. Your sister made choices about what to do with her money. Their poor planning is not your emergency to bail them out. Plus, most hospitals set up payment plans for people who need assistance. Let her pay the hospital back for his surgery. Don't let her paint you out to be the villain in her life's drama. She can take a good look in the mirror. You won't get your money back. Don't let your sister set you back in life. You'll make a terrific doctor. Response 16. not the a-hole, but your sister sure is. Up to sister. You married your husband knowing that he has health problems. If your husband's health is so important to you, why on earth did you blow through your entire inheritance? Common sense would dictate that he would continue to have health problems and healthcare costs. Not only that, did you ever give a thought to your son? One day he might want to go to college, but apparently it was more important to you to blow through your inheritance than to think of your son too. Your poor money management skills are not my problem. If she has not done so already, tell her to get a job. She needs to learn how to take care of her family. I would go from low contact to no contact with her because she will hound you incessantly. You finish medical school and earn a good living, and she will be there with her hand out. You know down the road she will expect you to pay for your nephew's college. If you are able to later on and want to do it, do not ever let your sister know about it because she will hound you for it. And never allow her access to any college fund you set up for him.